Do you believe in reincarnation? Reincarnation is the idea that the soul takes on a new body upon death of the current one. If true, it would mean that each of us may have lived many, many lives prior to this one, and that we may live many, many more. This belief is well established in Eastern traditions, and in Hinduism it is known as samsara. It has also been part of the teachings of ancient Greek philosophers, indigenous peoples throughout the world, and yes, even of esoteric Judeo-Christian traditions. What really happens when we die, or more accurately, when our physical body dies? Most people believe in one of three possibilities. The first is that our existence ends with the death of the body. There will be nothing left of us except flesh and bones, which will eventually decompose into the earth. Dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. The second is the idea that our soul moves on to another dimension, like heaven or hell, to live out an eternal existence. We get one chance in this physical life to get it right. If we do, we go to a nice place. And if we mess up, we go to a place of eternal damnation. There is no second chance. Then there is the third possibility, that we keep coming back in a new body over and over until we finally get it right. When that happens, we are released from the cycle of rebirth. That release is known as liberation, or in Eastern traditions, it is often referred to as moksha or nirvana. Is it possible to prove whether reincarnation is real or not? The whole idea of what consists scientific proof is in itself a highly debatable topic, but here we will say that if some phenomenon has occurred countless times and there are multiple witnesses to back up the stories, then that can be as close as we can get to scientific proof. And the more cases there are, and the more witnesses there are to confirm the stories, then that strengthens the evidence. One psychiatrist and researcher from the late 20th century, Dr. Ian Stevenson, spent decades researching the phenomenon of reincarnation. He traveled across the world to investigate thousands of cases and published his findings in several books. The following are a couple of cases that he investigated. In 1983, a young boy was born in a village near the town of Agra, India. At the age of 4, he began insisting that his name was Suresh Verma and that his wife Uma and their children lived in Agra and owned a radio shop. He did not consider his current family to be his real family and constantly begged to be taken to his real home. He also talked about having been murdered by 2 men and remembered exactly how it happened. He recalled that as he drove home one day, he honked his horn so that his wife could open the gate. That is when 2 men approached him, and one shot him in the head. The man who pulled the trigger was a businessman named Sedik Johadian. One day when the young boy's older brother visited Agra, he decided to check out the story. He found a radio shop called Suresh Radio and went in to ask for Suresh. He was told that Suresh had died several years earlier. When he asked how Suresh had died, they referred him to his widow, who explained that he had been shot in front of their house after returning home in his car. No one knew who had shot him, and therefore the murder went unsolved. When the brother recounted his little brother's claim to be Uma's husband, she insisted on meeting the boy. His current family took the boy to Agra to meet his previous family. The 4-year-old knew exactly how to get there and gave directions. After the boy recounted stories to Uma that only the two of them would have known, she was convinced that he was indeed the reincarnation of her deceased husband. While there, the boy correctly identified several family members and neighbors. Dr. Stevenson checked the young boy's head for scars and found a dent on the right side of his head, which resembled the mark of a bullet entering the skull, and on the other side of the head, he found a star-shaped scar which resembled a scar that an exiting bullet would leave. When the Agra police later questioned a man by the name of Sedik Johadian for the murder of Suresh Verma, the man confessed to the crime. Reincarnation cases are not only reported in Asia, where the idea is more widely accepted. Here is a case from England. In 1957, while playing on the pavement, 11-year-old Joanna and her 6-year-old sister Jacqueline were struck by a car and killed. A year after the tragic accident, their mom became pregnant. Her husband had a vision that she would give birth to twin girls and that they would be their 2 daughters reborn. When he told the doctor that he believed they were having twins, the doctor assured them that there was only one audible heartbeat present. The husband was later proven right, and his wife gave birth to twins. Dad noticed that one of the twins had a scar on her forehead in the exact same place as his previous younger daughter had. He also discovered that she had a birthmark at exactly the same place as his previous younger daughter. Dad was convinced, but Mom, who was a Catholic, found it difficult to believe in the idea of reincarnation. This was until the following events occurred. When the twins were 4 months old, the family moved to a different town, only to return on a visit 3 years later. To the amazement of the parents, their daughters knew their way around. Without being able to see the school, which was hidden behind a building, one of the girls exclaimed, "The school is just around the corner." The other one pointed to a hill and said, "Our playground was behind there. It had a slide and a swing." When they approached their old house, the 2 sisters recognized it instantly without being told. Mom was still not completely convinced until one day she opened a box with her previous daughter's toys and placed them out. One of the twins picked up 2 dolls and called them Mary and Suzanne, the same names that their previous daughter called them. The girl added, "I haven't seen them in ages." Then she pointed to a toy washing machine and said to her sister, "And there's your washing machine." The twins had very similar personalities to the deceased daughters. Both were overly cautious when crossing roads and feared fast-moving cars. The firstborn twin loved combing people's hair, which was exactly what the older deceased daughter Joanna loved to do. Dr. Stevenson's research was compelling. Nevertheless, the 20th century society was not ready to accept his findings. He received much criticism, which included being gullible enough to take children's imaginary stories seriously, asking leading questions to get the outcome he desired, and being duped by people who were seeking fame. This attitude is reminiscent of the 16th century society when mathematician and astronomer Copernicus claimed that the Earth evolved around the sun. The common belief at the time was that the Earth was at the center of the universe. Many people refused to accept the idea and instead criticized him. The Catholic Church even banned his book. When evidence contradicts our belief, it is easier to deny the evidence instead of admitting that our belief is wrong. While a certain amount of skepticism is prudent, too much skepticism results in closed-mindedness. Since Dr. Stevenson's time, other researchers have investigated thousands more cases. There are way too many cases to discount them as all being hoaxes or children's imaginary stories, or a series of coincidences or lucky guesses. As German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as being self-evident. It is time for us to accept the evidence and admit that reincarnation is in fact real. Namaste.